The Boy in the Attic. My name is Noah, and my story begins with fire. Not the warm kind that makes a home feel safe, but the kind that destroys everything you've ever known in a single night. I was 5 years old when my parents died. The fire came without warning, a roar in the dark. The smell of smoke burning my lungs. The sound of my mother's voice screaming my name. I remember the heat pressing against my skin, the glow of orange light filling the room, and the way my father's arms carried me into the cold night. That night I lost more than a house. I lost the arms that had held me close, the voices that told me bedtime stories, the warmth that made me feel like the world was safe. After the funeral, people spoke in whispers. They said I was going to live with family now, like it was a blessing. But I could see the truth in my uncle's eyes. The day he picked me up, I was not wanted. He had 3 sons already, and I was just another mouth to feed, another shadow in his crowded house. He didn't give me a bedroom. He gave me the attic. The attic was cold, dark, and smelled of dust. The wooden floor creaked with every step, and the wind found its way through cracks in the roof. My bed was an old, thin mattress on the floor. No window, no heater, just shadows and silence. Downstairs, my cousins had warm beds, toys, jackets, and dessert after dinner. I had hand-me-down clothes that didn't fit, meals that barely filled my stomach, and nights where I cried into the dark so no one would hear me. They reminded me often that I wasn't really part of the family. "You're not one of us," they would say. Sometimes they pushed my plate away at dinner, or hid my shoes so I'd be late for school. I tried to help around the house, hoping someone would like me. I swept floors, washed dishes, and folded laundry. But my cousins laughed when they saw me cleaning, calling me the servant. Once, I came home from school to find the door locked. I stood outside for hours, my hands frozen, until my uncle finally opened it and told me I should have been more careful with time. No one asked if I was hungry. No one asked if I had homework. But I learned something in that attic: how to stay quiet, how to keep my hopes hidden deep inside my chest, how to survive without being seen. I didn't have toys, but I had books, old newspapers, torn magazines, pages pulled from trash bins. Anything with words became my world. I read about planets, animals, the human body. I imagined myself in a white coat, working in hospitals, helping people feel better. At school, I sat in the front row. I raised my hand for every question. I smiled when teachers noticed me. The other kids had lunch boxes with sandwiches and fruit. I had bread wrapped in paper, but I never complained. One winter, I got sick, fever, coughing, body aching. I stayed in bed alone for 3 days. No one brought me soup. No one asked how I was. Wrapped in old blankets, I whispered the stories my mom used to tell me about brave heroes who faced storms and never gave up. Her voice in my memory became my strength. When I was 12, I entered the school science fair. My project was about the human heart, made from cardboard and strings. No one from my family came to see it, but my teacher, Mrs. Carter, stood beside me the whole time. When I won first place, she hugged me and said, "Noah, you're going to change the world." Those words became gold to me. Praise was rare. Belief was even rarer. At 14, I started working weekends at the local library. I wanted to be near books. The librarian, Mrs. Clark, noticed me right away. She began saving old medical books for me in a small box behind the counter. I read them late at night, under my blanket, using a flashlight. My heart would race with every new thing I learned. Every morning, I woke early. I folded my blanket neatly, cleaned the attic, and walked to school with my books in a plastic bag. Rain, cold, sickness, nothing stopped me. My cousins skipped school often, got into trouble, and came home angry. My uncle ignored them, but somehow always found reasons to punish me. Still, I kept going. In high school, I won awards for science and essays. I joined clubs, wrote papers, and earned medals. My attic walls became covered with certificates, but downstairs, no one mentioned my name. One summer, I applied for a medical center program. After an interview, I was accepted. For the first time, I walked into a real hospital, white walls, clean halls, people in uniforms moving with purpose. I started by cleaning floors, bringing coffee to nurses, helping wherever I could. One of the doctors began watching me closely. He saw that I listened more than I spoke, that I worked hard without complaint. One day he said, "Medicine is not just about knowledge, Noah. It's about care, about patience, about understanding pain." I wrote those words in my notebook and read them every night. When I was 17, I received a letter of a full scholarship to a top university. I remember walking into the kitchen, holding that letter like it was the most fragile thing in the world. My uncle read it and said, "Doctors need money we don't have. Don't dream too big." I smiled, went upstairs, and began packing my bag. Mrs. Clark drove me to the city. Before I walked into the dorm, she hugged me like a mother and said, "Go change the world, Noah. Show them what strength looks like." I carried her words like a shield. College was hard. I worked nights, studied days, and volunteered at clinics on weekends. I met people from every background, rich, poor, hopeful, broken. I listened to their stories and learned that healing wasn't just about fixing bodies. It was about seeing people, truly seeing them. At 22, I graduated early with honors. My uncle didn't come to the ceremony, but Mrs. Clark did. She cried when my name was called. That day, the boy from the attic became a doctor. And that was only the beginning. My first days at the hospital were overwhelming. The other young doctors moved quickly, spoke confidently. I stayed quiet, watching their every move. I took notes on everything, not just medical procedures, but the way nurses smiled to calm patients, the way hands moved gently during pain. One evening, a patient called me over. His voice was weak, but his eyes were kind. He told me his story, how he had no visitors left, no one to hold his hand. I stayed with him long after my shift, just talking. That became my habit, listening, staying, letting people feel less alone. Over time, I was trusted with more responsibilities. I worked in emergency rooms where seconds could mean life or death. I stayed calm when the room was loud. I spoke gently when fear was high. A year later, I received a small award from the hospital for my care with patients. It wasn't a big ceremony, but the words meant more than gold to me. Patients had written letters about how I made them feel safe. That night, I sat alone in my room, holding that certificate and crying. I didn't chase fame. I didn't chase money. I chased moments, a smile after pain, relief after fear, gratitude in tired eyes. I began traveling to small towns, offering free clinics for people who had no doctors. In those faces, I saw myself as a child, a small, silent, and full of dreams. I told them, don't stop. One day, this pain will be your strength. In one town, a boy gave me a crumpled note. Thank you for saving my sister. I want to be like you someday. I kept that note in my coat pocket next to my mother's photo. Years passed. I became a senior doctor, leading a team. We treated everyone with the same respect, the wealthy businessman, the homeless man with no shoes, the single mother who walked 5 miles for help. One winter, a power outage hit the hospital. Machines went silent. The air grew cold. But we stayed, using flashlights, cleaning wounds by hand, delivering a baby in the quiet glow of lamps. The mother named her child Noah. I cried that night. I saved my money, not for cars or gold, but for something lasting. I bought a small building downtown and turned it into a free children's clinic. We offered food, clean water, and a safe place for healing. One photo of me holding a child went viral. Letters poured in from around the world, but I didn't do it for attention. I did it because I remembered what it felt like to be unseen. Love found me when I wasn't looking. Her name was Elise, a nurse with a quiet strength. We shared stories, laughed over simple meals, and one day I realized I wanted her by my side forever. I proposed in the clinic garden, surrounded by flowers grown by the children. We adopted 2 little girls from the city orphans, just like I had been. I promised to be the father I never had. Now, when I walk into the clinic, I see colors, laughter, and hope. I see doctors who are kind as well as skilled. I see my own story in every child's eyes. Some nights, I dream of my mother. She smiles, touches my face, and says nothing. I wake with tears but also peace. I whisper into the dark, I made it, Mama. And in my heart, I know she hears me.